Hey everyone, Kat with Calico Cali Designs. Today's tutorial is how to put vinyl on foam pumpkins. This is actually a really easy project. It looks complicated, but it's not complicated. For today's video, we're going to assume that you already know how to cut out the vinyl. So we're going to skip the actual cutting of the vinyl itself and really just concentrate on getting the vinyl on the pumpkins. So some of these are done with the designs from our pumpkin bundle. The link to is below. And some of them I just did using my own initial. So let's talk about the ones with my own initial for a moment. If you want to just do your own initial with your name, I use the font Times New Roman for the F. For fair, I just used a random script font that I had in Canvas Workspace. I don't remember the exact one. But one thing I want to talk about is the sizing. Obviously you have to size your initial to fit your size pumpkin. This one here is about 4 inches long and a little over 4 inches wide. One thing that I did do was I turned off aspect ratio so I could make the F a little bit wider without making it taller. And the same thing for my last name. Since my last name only has 4 letters, it was really tiny. So I turned off aspect ratio and I just stretched it so it would fit across the entire letter F. Next, let's talk about placement. I chose to place my last name kind of more towards the bottom of my initial. I have seen it where they're placed more going across the middle of it, even somewhere it's at the top. You place it wherever you want it. It's your pumpkin. There's no wrong way to do this. I've also seen super cute where this whole thing's a little bit smaller and then it says established and the year they were married beneath it. What a great gift that would make, right? Love, love, love that. So let's head into the studio and get crafting. Most of the pumpkins that you see here on the porch behind me are from our pumpkin bundle, the link to which is below, except for this guy. This is my quilt themed pumpkin. It sits in my studio. Gotten many compliments on this. This particular design is also available on our website, the link to which is below, but it's not part of our pumpkin bundle, so I just wanted to point that out. And obviously my last name and initial aren't part of that bundle either. So the first step is going to be to cut out and weed your vinyl. So I've already cut out and weeded the F. Now you're going to transfer it onto your transfer sheet. I'm using the Caesar brand. And the trick to this is to over burnish it. So we're just going to put our transfer sheet down. Oopsie. Get it kind of sort of straight on there. And then over burnish it. So scratch it like you're trying to win $1 million on a scratch off ticket. Really get it to stick there. Sometimes I'll even flip it over and burnish from the other side as well. When you're ready to test it to see if it's ready, slowly peel back the paper from behind at an angle. And voila, that's exactly what we want. The entire letter just stuck to the transfer sheet. Now I'm going to go ahead and burnish my last name at the same time, and then we'll head over to the pumpkin. So for those of you that want to see it again, I've cut out my transfer paper, and I'm using transfer paper by Caesar. Just using my actual Silhouette brand scraper. Scraping along here, flip it over, scrape the other side. And the trick that I find to getting any transfer paper to work is to over scrape more than you think you need to, as if you're trying to win $1 million in a scratch off ticket. And we'll see. Oh, I did get that little corner. So there we go. Slow. Oh, no, you can see how it didn't stick. So I'll just place it back down and keep on burnishing. That was the area that I wasn't getting. Sometimes I'll even use an actual scratch-off scratcher here that I got at the lottery store one day. Get that one little section in the back. We'll try again. Slowly peel. Missed that portion there. So we'll just come back. Really get in that corner there. We'll try this. Here we go. Looks like we got it this time. Hooray! The entire name stuck. Woohoo! Now we'll head over to the pumpkin and apply it to the pumpkin. The key to getting it on your pumpkin is a lot of patience and a hairdryer. So here we go. The first thing we'll do is center it the best we can. Now one thing I do want to point out is that because my last name is an F, I'm going to try to get this portion of it on a straight part of the pumpkin and not directly in a seam. Kind of make it a little bit easier for myself. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it here to get it. Now I'm just going to press on the transfer paper at the moment and not press down the actual vinyl until I get it about the height that I want. Make sure it's straight. Now that's where I want it. First thing I'm going to do is finger press it in place. Kind of scratch it with your nails to get it in those corners. Then we're going to use, see how it's not sticking? We're going to use the dryer, the hair dryer, to add a little heat to it so it kind of melts in place in a way. And then again, we can use our small scraper to get into those little corners. Again, patience and finesse for this. I should note that while I do have my hair dryer on the highest setting for heat wise, I'm not using it at full blast. See, this one little corner of the F is not sticking, so we'll get that a little more. And I just go in little sections, take your time, get all those little crevices because that's what's going to peel up, the crevices, any spot where it's rounded. Looks like I got the corner of that pretty good there. Now I'll start doing these portions of the F. The big initial is generally a lot easier to do than the smaller name part. So definitely start with the big initial, which you have to do anyway for layering purposes, but it also kind of gets you started so you know what you're doing by the time you get to the name. All right. I think that looks good. So whenever we use transfer paper, slowly peel from the corner. Just make sure I got a little bubble there, but we can kind of finesse that in place afterwards. Peel this corner, making sure that if any of the vinyl comes off with it, then we'll place this back down right away, re-burnish, and reuse the hair dryer. See, I'm losing the edges here, so let's kind of re-burnish in there a little bit. I don't want to scratch too hard and make a dent in my foam pumpkin naturally, but you can burnish it a bit without injuring the pumpkin. Just having trouble with the edge of that one. There we go. Oh, much better. A little trouble here, losing this part of the F. Do a little air bubble, but we'll try to flatten that out afterwards. There we go. So now I can definitely see some spots here that we'll have to kind of burnish down a little bit more. Get in those crevices with my small little tool here. Otherwise, I think we're looking good. And so now we will repeat the process with my last name. All right, so now I'm lining up my last name. Now obviously this is much bigger. It's going to go more around the curve of the pumpkin. So that just means it's going to take a lot more finesse. More hair dryer, more time with the little scraping tool. And I always start by just kind of finger pressing it in. So here we go. Okay, so now we're peeling off my transfer paper. Oh, see, I lost a section of that letter there, so I'm going to kind of just re-scratch at it, and if I need to, I'll put the hair dryer back on it, get some more heat in there, make it pliable, So it kind of stays in place, but let's see if we got it. Oh, we got it. And as I'm pulling this back, gently scraping with my little scraper any spots that I see that didn't really get into the fold of the pumpkin very well, and just kind of pushing them in place. So just take your time on these. Patience is your friend when it comes to these. There we go. Transfer paper is off. Fix my little R there. And there we have it. When you're doing a large word or long word like thankful here, I kind of like to go one letter at a time, really pushing them into the grooves. You'll find that the issue is going to be more the transfer paper. The transfer sheets are going to get all bent and wrinkly, which is totally fine. But they don't like to, for example, if I were to try to push down the K here, see how it's going to all buckle up. So it almost is a little bit easier to work it one letter at a time, left to right, really smoothing everything into those grooves, using your scraper and your hair dryer to help you on any of those stubborn areas. And yes, I'm totally sitting on the floor to do this, whatever makes it easier, right? Holding the pumpkin in place with my legs, using both hands. And again, you can kind of see, using both hands, smoothing out the vinyl, getting it in place as I go along. So here's a good example of the transfer sheet bubbling up so the top of my K isn't sticking. No big deal. The top of the F is sticking. So I'll just have to kind of come over here, smooth it out of the way, burnish that down with my fingernail. And again, I don't really care that this transfer sheet has now has a crease in it. I can just throw it away afterwards. But that's what you have to watch out for, is that transfer sheet bubbling up and creasing up can make certain areas not stick. So definitely make sure you go through and check all that before you peel the entire transfer sheet off. So I've gone through and peeled off my transfer sheet slowly, letter by letter, and you can see there's some spots here that have buckled up, like the corner right here. So you can either fold that down and get a little crease in it, or snip it with your scissors and then push each piece down individually. So like here's a little bubble that I'll kind of go through and use my scraper and flatten out. So that will be what I do next. I will go through all the letters and just kind of re-burnish them down, flattening out any bumps. I want to show you really quickly snipping that. I'm just going to take fine point scissors and snip. And then I would use my tweezers to lay them down flat right on top of each other so it overlaps a smidgen. So this particular vinyl is super shiny, and I have the pumpkin set just so that you can see this right here. So he's just got like a little crease in it. So ideally that would have been a spot that I would have snipped with my scissors. But you know what? Once you lay this flat and you have it out and all decorated, no one's going to notice that. My eye goes to it because I know it's there, but after a while, even I'll forget that it's there, and it won't be noticeable. So don't worry too much. Little things like that aren't really imperfections. Remember, it's art, and no one is going to notice except for yourself. Everyone's just going to be like, wow, how did you get letters on your pumpkin and flowers, and it's so pretty? They're not going to notice if one little spot's a little wrinkly. So don't fret. You can do this. The final steps are to embellish the pumpkin using ribbons, flowers. I'm even going to add some lights. So the first thing I did is use some wire ribbon and made myself a bow. I like the wire ribbon because you can kind of foof it as much as you want. I just tied it up in the back here, and you can even add a little bit of glue to keep that in place. To add the flowers, I first just poked a hole using the tip of this really small screwdriver here, wherever I want them. I'm just going to push it in, poke a hole, and then literally just insert the tip of the flower and push it on into whichever height you want. Fill up with as many flowers as you want. And for our final step, I added a strand of 10 lights. I used orange lights, so it brings out my orange vinyl and all my orange flowers and the orange in the bow. And I just absolutely love the way it came out. I'm going to spin this around here for you. Obviously, the back is not as pretty, so the back I will put against a wall so you can't see.
If I get nice and close there, you can see all my stems. And if you want, you can even put a dollop of glue by each stem of the flower. I didn't bother. When I store them, I'll just store them carefully so that it doesn't come undone. And there you have it, foam pumpkins with vinyl.
If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Please subscribe to our channel. We don't want you to miss out on any of our upcoming tutorials. And of course, let's be friends. Follow us on social media. All the links are below. And our website is calicocali.com. We have SVG cuttable designs, machine embroidery designs, notions, long arm quilting photos, and all sorts of fun. Thanks for stopping by.